Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Gabriel Talks Football. And for those of you people wondering what the heck is going on, this show is labeled Dan and Aldo Bear Their Souls. Now, that's because this goofball made a mistake, and I'm sending Greg the wrong link, and everything started off terribly, but everything starts to get better now because my buddy Greg Gabriel joins us. Greg, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Aside from the 34 mistakes I've made this morning, I'm doing great. And I'll tell you why I'm also feeling better is because I just got a text saying that Tiger Woods says he's going to play at the Masters. Are you as excited as I am?
Well, I was watching him yesterday on really two different channels, CBS Sports Channel and the Golf Channel, and on CBS they showed him hitting balls and he was talking to people and he looked fine. And then they had videos of him on the Golf Channel playing a practice round with Justin Thomas and Freddie Couples. And Freddie Couples, said he looked amazing, and of course that's what Freddie's going to say. But you could see he was walking with a limp now.
Yeah,
not a real bad limp. And this morning he said, well, my plan is to play. It's, they're supposed to have like a better than an inch of rain today, which is going to really soften that course. And now that's going to make the walking that much harder.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll dry out a little by Thursday, but I think it remains to be seen. Did you watch the father-son?
No, I missed it.
Well, he played great. I mean, but he also had a cart. And then he was joking around and he said, in 4 more years, I can join the senior tour. And you can use a cart on the senior tour, but you can't use a cart on the regular tour.
Right.
Now, there are exemptions, but they're real hard to get. I mean, there was this one guy who finally had his leg amputated. They wouldn't give him a damn exemption. And so, they're not, if they didn't give it to him, they're not going to give it to Tiger. And Tiger flat out said, if I can't walk, I'm not playing.
Right.
He's not going to, he said he wouldn't even ask for an exemption.
Mm-hmm. There was a great movie years ago on the life of Ben Hogan. I'm trying to look at the title. Ben Hogan was played by Glenn Ford, and the movie's called Follow the Sun. And I'll never forget this. I saw it as a kid, and the big part of the movie is Hogan gets into this car crash. He could hardly walk, but he works his way back to the tour. And in one of the majors, he just has this courageous battle against his injury and the elements. And so wouldn't it be cool if Tiger did the impossible? Because it's going to, like you just outlined, it's going to be really, really tough on his body with the weather conditions and temperature and the soft turf and all that stuff. It's going to be really, really tough. If he somehow lasts all 4 rounds and then wins the thing, it'll be as big as that movie, as big as when Jack Nicklaus sunk that putt to win the Masters, 30 years ago? It'll be huge, man.
I as much as we'd all love to see him win, I just can't see it happening.
Yeah.
And not because he's not capable, his game's not capable. It's he hasn't played tournament golf in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And so your game's not fine-tuned to that. Where these other guys are playing every week. Now he's playing a lot. I don't care what he's got a 4-hole golf course in his backyard.
Nice.
And he's got it, and it's set up, it's designed to emulate certain holes at certain courses. So that he can, and 1 or 2 of which is Augusta.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting his practice in. There's no question about that. But again, it just the fact that he is playing 14 months after a horrific crash when his leg got crushed and literally almost lost his leg. That part alone is amazing.
It really is. It really is. And so I wish him all the luck in the world. I hope we have an exciting Masters tournament. I look forward to it every year. And for those of you who are hoping that we're going to start talking football pretty soon, it starts right now. Greg is going to evaluate over a dozen offensive linemen. And so this is something that a lot of you have been asking for. And so here we go. We will start with Evan Neal, who is on many boards the top-rated offensive lineman. But you told me that for you, maybe that's not the case.
Well, no, I like Ekonwu a little bit better. And you know what? It's flavor. Yeah. And so, and I don't care who goes first of the two. You know, somebody could come back and say, well, you had Ekonwu number one and Neal went number one. Mm-hmm. So what? You know what? It's what the guy does in the league and who's going to be the better player 3 years from now. Mm-hmm. And I just, you know, looking at the tape, and these guys are first rounders. I don't want to spend a lot of time on them. You know, there's no chance in the world that the Bears are going to get them. You know, they're both quality players. I just like Ekonwu's movement skills better than Neal's. He keeps his back straight. I think he recovers to counter moves a little quicker than Neal. Neal has I don't want to call him a waist bender, but he's real tall and he kind of leans forward. Mm-hmm. You know, if I was standing up and we had the capability of doing that, I could show you what I mean, where Ekonwu is always straight and he uses his hands, keeps his hands inside. They're both excellent. They're both going to be very, very good pros. The one thing I like about Ekonwu is that, you know, he's a very, very intelligent guy. He got into Ivy League schools. Wow. Okay. So, you know, right off the bat, you know, learning an offense and everything else is going to be very, very easy for him. And by all means, I'm not saying anything against Neal as far as intelligence. I'm just saying that this guy has got special intelligence and he's, you know, I think he's going to be a great player, but they're both going to be real good players. You can't go wrong with either one.
Yeah. I've read some reports about Ekonwu being the type of personality that you want to build your team around because he's a leader, he's intelligent, he's that guy that's a difference maker in the locker room and on the field. So I could see why you might give him the edge just solely based on that.
No, I tweeted out yesterday. I got some backlash from it, but I don't care. I think Jacksonville is going with one of these offensive linemen first. Mm. They signed another edge rusher last week, Key from, I think he was with San Francisco or the Raiders or something, LSU player. And so they've got two people intact. And, you know, from all indications, the number one pick a few years ago, Robinson, in fact, ironically from Alabama, you know, been inconsistent. They could move him to another spot along the line, but this is the last year of his rookie contract. It just wouldn't shock me, and they got an offensive head coach too, in Peterson. So it just wouldn't shock me that they go offensive line. Could I be wrong? Of course I could be wrong. I'm just trying to, based on their moves in free agency, saying, wait a minute, to me, when they signed Key last week, I said, you know what, I think they're going offense. That tells me they're going offensive line.
You know, this next guy that we're going to talk about is another interesting fellow, Charlie Cross. When he was after his rookie season, they changed the offense. They went from a run-heavy offense to a pass-heavy offense. And in that first year in that new offense, he had a really rough time. Now, last year, he excelled and is climbing a lot of people's boards. Do you read this the same way, Charlie Cross?
Yeah, there's some people that got him as, across the league. That's what's unique about this draft is that there is no consensus number one, and there's not even a consensus number one at some of the positions. Let alone number one in the draft. And there's some people that got Cross as the number one tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like Ekonwu. Other people like Neal. Okay, some people like Cross. And he's going to go high too. And, you know, the one thing he can do, you know, the head coach they got at Mississippi State now is you know, in a pass-happy offense, so you got to learn how to pass protect, and that's what the guy can do. He's got long arms, 34.5-inch arms, big hands. You can see that 10 3/4 hand. Those are huge hands. You know, he's strong. And I got to bring up one other thing too, because I was doing this when I was doing this tape on all these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I started looking at some of their numbers, and I went back to, and I don't know if I wrote them all down here, but I went back. You know, people have this argument that Tevin Jenkins can't play left tackle.
Right.
Compare Tevin Jenkins' numbers to all these guys.
About the same.
They're better or the same.
Really?
Yes. Just the measurable stuff.
Right.
Very. These guys, a couple of these guys are a little bit faster. Tevin was a 5.01. A couple of these guys broke 5 flat, which is rare for those big guys, but they're in the 4.9s. I mean, it's not like, you know, we're talking a 1/10 of a second, and a 1/10 of a second for one of these big guys is what, you know, that much. And it's not far. So I don't want to hear that from a physical standpoint, Tevin Jenkins can't play left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's just, and he did it 8 games in college, would have done it more. And we've talked about that before. The other starter, the right tackle, got hurt. The backup felt more comfortable playing on the left side than the right side. So he played the left, and Jenkins went back over to the right side. And, you know, he did it for the good of the team. Otherwise, he would have had 2 years at left tackle. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of just getting used to playing the position. And again, you know, we can use Slater from Northwestern last year. He only played 11 games in college at left tackle. So and you know, look at the guy we had last year playing left tackle. You know what he was in college? A freaking tight end at 320 pounds.
That's right.
Okay. So please, I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, it's Danny Shimon on our Draft on Tap show says that Tevin Jenkins cannot play left tackle. We will see what happens. And
why does Danny say that?
He is just concerned over the few games that he saw on tape of Jenkins playing left tackle. He says he's a right tackle. There's just no way he can.
Here's where I disagree with Danny. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned this last week. We talked about it, might have been 2 weeks ago. Tevin Jenkins had at most 5 padded practices last year, and probably less than that. Mm-hmm. Once you get into the regular season, by CBA rule, you'll only allowed 12 or 13 padded practices the whole season.
That's ridiculous. But
okay, so not even one a week, because you've got 18 weeks. You got one, you know, you got the bye week in there. So it's not even one a week. Mm-hmm. He was on IR. He missed camp. When do you learn how to, you know, perfect your technique? Because when you're in and doing a lot of one-on-ones in camp, he didn't have that. Mm-hmm. So what he learned, it was from sitting and watching, but not actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm not going to buy that he can't, what he did last. I don't give a shit what he did last year, only because, you know, he never went through a camp. He did go through the off season. Mm-hmm. And the offseason part was good. And then he hurt his back, wasn't able to take part in camp, didn't play in a preseason game. Mm-hmm. Hell, I mean, he would have got a ton of reps in 3 preseason games.
Yeah.
Probably as many reps as he got all last year during the regular season.
Right. Well, to be fair to Danny, that opinion was based prior to the draft, or right around that time it was announced that Jenkins would be a member of the Chicago Bears. So it was based on what the college tape that he evaluated. So we'll see.
And most of his college tape is at right tackle, especially his final year. Right. You got to go back to the previous year when he played some left tackle.
Mm-hmm. I am Scocks asks, where does Greg prefer Jenkins, left or right?
Left.
Definitely.
Prove to me. I look at it this way. Prove to me he can't play left.
Mm-hmm.
or he's got to prove to me he can't play on the left side.
Right.
You know, going back, and this goes way back. This goes back to the late 80s when I was with the Giants. We drafted offensive linemen in the first and second round around 88.
Mm-hmm.
Might be off a year. We took Eric Moore in the first round, Jumbo Elliott in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
We took Eric Moore to be the left tackle and Jumbo to be the right tackle. And part of the reason was athleticism. Eric Moore was a dancing teddy bear. Great feet, speed, agility, everything. Where Jumbo was a 5'6" 40, didn't have the quick feet. And, you know, so you just said, this guy's the natural for right tackle. The other guy's the natural for left tackle. Guess what? Eric Moore played right tackle and Jumbo played left tackle, and he's a perennial All-Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now Orlando Brown, probably the worst workout in the history of the combine for an offensive tackle. You can probably look up the numbers. They're atrocious.
Yeah.
They're worse than atrocious. They're enough to make you gag. I mean, you know, you're going to puke right on the screen. They were awful. This guy got the franchise tag to play. Now, his tape at Oklahoma was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was going good for him until he worked out. He should have never worked out.
That's right. It was awful. I remember seeing that. In fact, I think I got it up on the screen. It's coming at you. These numbers will, in fact, as Greg just said, make you puke. 5.85 in the 40-yard dash, only 14 on the bench press. This is a man who is 6'8", over about 350 pounds.
Yeah, and he's got about 45-inch arms. I mean, you know.
Yeah, well, that 35-inch arms, that's exceptionally long. Yeah, so he has proved a lot of the naysayers wrong.
Leave it 20 shuttle, 5.38. Now I've had an Achilles surgery and I've got a knee replacement knee in my right knee.
Mm-hmm.
I can break 5.38 right now. But guess who's making $20 million a year at left tackle right now?
There should be a
sure as hell ain't me.
Would you like to be in a senior league? Yeah, I mean, you'd be a first-round draft pick, that's for sure.
Well, I'm a little small to play that position. 172 pounds won't cut it, you know.
The way you work out, though. All right, let's move on now. You're probably going to have an argument with Danny over this guy, too, because Danny does not believe that this guy is worthy of a high second rounder because he's such a developmental pick. And I'm talking about Bernhard Rainmann from Central Michigan. But you like him as a potential first rounder. Tell us why.
Yeah, I think he's a lock first. And at worst, he's not getting, put it this way, if he doesn't go in the first, he's going to be one of those guys, you know, you come back on Friday morning and you start looking at the board. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to jump right out at you. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't go in the first, he's going to go in the first 3 picks of the second round. Mark it down because people will trade up to get him. Mm. There's one problem with him. Now, I think he'll probably end up playing right tackle and not left tackle. Okay. And the main reason is right over there on the right side there where it says 32 7/8 inch arms. That's a little too short.
Okay.
But when you watch his movement skills, his bend, his feet, his punch, you know, all of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The raw part is that, you know, he wasn't brought up in the United States playing football all his life. But when you watch the tape, there's nothing I don't like about the tape. Mm-hmm. And, you know, yeah, Central Michigan is down a level in comp, but he played against some good schools too now. Mm-hmm. And I think they played LSU and a Big Ten school. I mean, the guy can play. I do think he's going in the first round. I know there's a lot of people in the league that really like the guy. Mm-hmm. And like his work ethic, his leadership, his strength. You know, I think he's got. Does it have his bench up there on there? I think it was 31 or 32, something like that.
No, I didn't have it.
Yeah, he's a strong dude. And now, in saying that, the bench is not indicative of the power. It's great, means you're working in the weight room, and if you get 30 reps or 32 reps, you're about a 425, 430 pound, maybe 440 pound bench presser, but your power is coming from your hips and your ass, not your chest,
Mm-hmm.
and your pectorals. So, but no, I think the upside with him is just outrageous. All told, I like this offensive line class.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of depth there. And I didn't know until I really started getting into the tape,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and looking at it. And like I said, I've done close to 20 guys. And I said, damn, some of these guys are pretty darn good.
Well, that's great.
I mean, I'd take them. I put it this way. I see a lot of them. In fact, as long as we're on Central Michigan, let's jump to the other guy from Central Michigan. What the hell is his name?
Let's see. Who are we talking about here? Central.
I got like pages of notes here. I got to find it here.
It is
Starts with a G.
As I scroll, see that far down? Central Michigan. Oh, Luke
Janicki.
Yeah, there he is.
Who played right tackle for Central Michigan. He will play guard.
Mm-hmm.
He's another short arm guy. He doesn't have the arm length to play. Now, could you get out of a game with him at right tackle? Yes, but he's going to be a guard.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 32-inch arms, 32.25-inch arms. He's strong. He's got kind of like a block build. The guy who works with him, his offensive line guru, is a good friend of mine, Paul Alexander, who coached in the league for about 25 years. Excellent football coach. And, I heard Paul talking about him the other day on Sirius. He was on with Jim Miller. And so I gave Paul a call, and his pro day was yesterday, by the way. So yesterday, both of these Central Michigan guys finally worked out. This guy had a hamstring or something, and he couldn't work out at the original Central Michigan day. So both linemen worked out yesterday, and there was a ton of offensive line coaches there, from what I understand. That's where we're supposed to be, put it that way.
Yeah.
I got to call Paul to find out. But I think this guy can come in and be a starter at right guard.
I wanted to go back to Bernhard Rainmann. You mentioned it, actually. He was a foreign exchange student coming over to Michigan for high school. So he hasn't been around football, I guess, for a long time. So he's like a big mold of clay that a lot of offensive line coaches would love to get their hands on.
Well, yeah, but he has played. And the thing is, when you come to the game late,
mm-hmm.
if you're around the right coaches, you're not really learning bad habits. You're learning the good stuff. And so, and Central Michigan actually got a pretty good program.
Mm-hmm.
And they've done a good job over the years developing offensive linemen. They've had 2 high first-round picks come out of that program. And, I just think the only negative I have on him is his arms are 32 7/8. You'd rather see him be about a half inch longer. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the guy is I think a very solid football player with a ceiling way up here.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about Kenyon Green and see where his ceiling is at. There was on NFL.com, a scout said that his best tape is when he's playing inside. The only lapses in play that he saw was when he was playing at the tackle position. What do you think about Kenyon Green from Texas A&M?
Like him a lot. He's a very aggressive player, almost like goes for the throat type guy.
Love it.
Can play anywhere along the line. I think he's played every place but center. And he might have even played center. But he's got that versatility. I got in my notes, he's plug and play. He's going to come in and play as a rookie.
Ooh.
Let me what I got in my notes. I said his bench was not good. It was only 20. But I said he can play anywhere along the line but center. Strong, nasty, quick set, real strong hands, got a strong punch, good mirror, can pull and adjust, play in space, very versatile, finishes, nasty, plug-and-play guy.
And you got to love it that he's from Humble, Texas. That is pretty cool. All right, let us move on and talk about Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. Another big guy, 6'7". We got a lot of tall offensive linemen in this crop.
Right. And this guy is a lot better than his teammate Brown, who went in the 3rd or 4th round to Buffalo last year. And Brown started the last half of the year for Buffalo at right tackle and is going to be a star. And this guy's better. That's all you need to know. I mean, this guy's a natural left tackle, big and strong. I like the way he uses his body. When I watch offensive linemen, first I want to watch the end zone view, because then you can see their stance. And they have flexibility in their stance. Or are they tight? Are their knees bowed out? If their knees are bowed out, that means they could be tight in the ankles or tight in the knees or whatever. So you want to be able to see that end zone view and see how comfortable they are in a stance, especially if they're in a 3-point stance. You can't necessarily see it if they're in the 2-point stance, which a lot of tackles are. But there's another thing you look for. Very few people look for it, but I want, when they're in the stance, I don't want their back foot, have them be up on their toes on their back foot. I want that back foot down.
Why is that, Greg?
It balance. And because you're coming off the ball, you're taking these short, choppy steps. And if you're, what it tells you, and it may not mean a thing, but the correct way to teach it is to have their feet flat on the ground. So if he's got his foot, like in that sprinter type stance, like a wide receiver would have, that can tell you that maybe he's got tight ankles. And you got to have flexibility, because you got to have bend. If you're a tall player, unless you're extremely strong, your ability to anchor just isn't going to be there, and you're going to get pushed back into the quarterback.
Greg, have we seen a change in offensive line play over the last 10, 15 years because college football offenses have changed?
They don't run block as well, I don't think. And I'm speaking in general, because it depends on the program you come from. They're predominantly passing teams, so their pass protection is better. We always taught our scouts that when you're scouting tackles, pass protection first, run block second. Inside guys, it's the other way around. So and you look at a guy, let's say he's a left tackle in college, and he isn't a girthy guy, so he can't play right tackle. And then it's like, well, okay, if he can't play left tackle at our level, what is he? He can't play. If he can't go over to the other side. So, you've got to look at a lot of different things. I told you in the text the other day, I love doing offensive linemen. It's just fun. When I'm at practice, that's all I watch. I spend 90% of my time watching the grunts.
I love it. You learn a lot about the game if you know offensive line play. It's the key. It's the key to any offense. And I've learned now over the last 5-6 years since I've been doing the barroom stuff, that's what I look at. I let my peripheral vision look at what the quarterback and the backfield is doing and to the left of the defensive line. But I just kind of focus on what's going on in the pit, and that's going to determine a success or failure in most cases on a play.
Well, and it comes to coaching too now. Good coaches can make shitty players good players or adequate players. Learn to play within their deficiencies.
What do you think about Ravi says here? I like tackles that convert to guard in the pros because in a pinch, you can throw them outside. That versatility is valuable.
A lot of times, it used to be almost a rule of the road, not anymore. But you draft a guy to be a tackle, but you'd play him at guard to get him on the field.
Uh-huh.
And then once he got that experience and confidence, then you'd move him outside. We used to do that all the time in New York, and especially if you got a veteran guy already outside and he's not done yet. So then you play the rookie inside for a year or two and then move him out. One guy who was a tackle, a real good tackle, got drafted as a tackle, but ended up playing guard in the league was Roger Saffold, who's now with Buffalo. Was with the Rams,
right.
A couple other teams. I think with Tennessee, been a Pro Bowl player, but he was a great tackle in college. But part of it has to do, and I harp on it a lot because it's important, but part of it has to do with your damn arm length and your height and your range. You got to have range. Tackles got to be able to, slide out and stay with that speed, but you also got to be able to recover and come back inside against the counter moves. And so part of it's coaching and part of it's natural athleticism. Well, and we're going to get to a guy, and when you bring him up, that has been right tackle, then left tackle, and you see, and he at left tackle struggled with that shifting of the weight, going from the outside back to the inside against the counter move, where he wasn't doing it on the right side at the college level.
Well, I'll leave everybody in suspense as to who that player is, because the next guy we're going to talk about is a guy that's going to play center and only center, at least according to some reports, Tyler Linderbaum. He is just built for that center position and probably will not translate well to guard or tackle. Your thoughts on the center from Iowa?
I'm going to probably get beat up. I don't like him as much as a lot of people do. I don't dislike him. He's a good football player, and he's going to come in and start for the right team. I don't think he's good for everybody. First of all, he's not that big, and he doesn't play big. Okay, he's 6'2", 295 pounds, but look at the arm length there, 31 1/8. Now, Olin Kreutz is supposed to have short arms, 31 1/2. For a center. That's as short as I've ever seen for an offensive lineman. Now, a guard and a center can get away with shorter arms than a tackle. The tackles you want better than 33. But you can get, if you got a guard, Martin for the former Notre Dame, he played left tackle at Notre Dame, and he's been an perennial all-pro at Dallas.
Right.
He was 32 1/2, and of course they moved him inside right away. And part of that was because of the arm length. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it has a lot to do with leverage. And I think we talked about this last week, but think about, the cartoons where you got the guy putting his hand out like this, the bully, and the other guy's underneath like going, swinging. Yeah. That's what it is. It's real simple. A guy with length wins. But on the defensive side of the ball, and we talked about this once before too, is that the common trait with great pass rushers is not speed, it's arm length.
Interesting.
And all the great pass rushers got long arms, 90% of them. I mean, there's never an absolute, but it's one of the big common denominators is how long arms is, how they can use their hands and get that leverage. And so that's why you want to have tackles have some length, and you can get, when guards are playing against nose tackles and defensive tackles, who a lot of times don't have that length that the defensive ends have or the edge guys have.
Okay. Let's move on to let's see, who do I got here? Trevor Penning, the Northern Iowa offensive tackle.
We already did him.
Oh,
we were talking about him. No, I said his buddy.
That's right.
Zion.
Yes.
This guy's a good football player.
Zion Johnson, yes.
Yes, he is strong. He's tough. He's smart. He can play mostly guard at Boston College. Played a lot of center down at the Senior Bowl. This guy's got a chance. I see in mocks. He's gets drafted late in the first. I think he's, one of these guys, I call him 20 to 40 guys. And that means, you got a grouping of players and they could go anywhere in that 20 to 40 area. He could be a guy that the Bears are staring at 39. I doubt it, but possibility. And, then they'd have to make a decision, and they're going to make that decision really before the draft even starts. You're going to say, what if this guy's here? And as compared to, different people, what direction are they going to go? But good football player. There's nothing bad about his game. He's strong. He's smart. He's athletic. He gets out to the second level. He can play in space. He can pull, adjust on the move. He's got a good punch. He plays with good bend. He anchors well. Everything about his game is very, very solid.
He is a smart guy, too.
Yes, very.
A two-time captain, great football intelligence, another great locker room presence. So Zion Johnson.
And another school that perennially puts out good offensive linemen.
How much does that mean to you as somebody who professionally evaluates offensive linemen, that they come from a school that specializes in that position? Do you give them an extra thumbs up for that?
Well, I don't know why it happens, but it just does. Mm-hmm. I mean, like Notre Dame recently has put out a bunch of really good linemen, but a lot of it has to do with Harry Eastham. One of the best offensive line coaches in the game.
Right.
So that has a lot to do with it, but they've always had good coaches coaching the line at Boston College for whatever reason, a tradition.
All right, let's move on and talk about, wrong guy, Tyler Smith from Tulsa. I've been intrigued by this guy.
I like him. He gets a little tall. Mm-hmm. Let me pull out my notes. But, he's very athletic, got length. I love those big hands, and he's got strong hands, 10 3/4 inch hands. That sounds like he's got a freaking catcher's mitt for a hand. And, he mirrors well, strong punch. Let me get my notes on this guy.
While you do that, I'd like to share a quick story about him. During his sophomore high school season, his final season of playing defensive line, Smith's teammate and quarterback cracked his spine after taking a hit. Smith's coach came to him the following offseason about a position change to become a protector of the quarterback. From that point forward, Smith wanted to be an offensive lineman because he wanted to make sure no one ever hurt his friend again, a mentality he still has today. That's from NFL.com. Great story.
Yeah. I got here. Very good size, length, and speed. He does get a little tall at times. He's got huge hands, all around physical tool. His physical tools are great. Has a couple of weak points in that but I think they're easily coachable. He gets tall. I can't read my own writing here. Sometimes he's a little late getting off the ball. Mm-hmm. But getting tall, being late off the ball, I mean, those are things you can work on with a good coach. But I like his physicality. He's got like a nasty attitude. I think he could play inside at guard. He could be like we were saying just a little while ago, one of those guys. If you're set a tackle, you could start him at guard, and then when you're tackle's ready to go or moves on to a bigger contract and you don't want to keep him, move him back outside. And he's very capable of playing on the left side. I'll tell you what, it surprised me because Tulsa football used to suck. And, I've been there probably 20 times over the years. And the last few years, they've gotten some pretty good players out of that program.
We'll have to keep an eye on the Tulsa offensive line factory. It's just starting up and doing
not just offensive line. I mean, Travis Gibson came out of Tulsa, and there's been a few others. It's like, where are they getting these guys?
Well, here's a guy who is another super intelligent guy who has performed well at the guard position, Cole Strange. Tennessee.
Love this guy. Absolutely. You put on the tape and you just go, wow. Now, granted, he is, he plays at a lower level of comp, but they played some good teams too, and he kicked the shit out of them too. This guy comes to play. Now, he's actually 6'4.5". He doesn't look that tall. I'm watching the tape, and I didn't look at the measurables before I watched the tape. And I'm thinking he's 6'2", 6'2.5", and he's 6'4.5", 6'4 3/4", something like that. And he's got good arm length, but he never stops going. He's like the ever-ready battery, and he looks for a second hit, sometimes a third hit, and he just doesn't touch you. He knocks the hell out of you.
Oh, nice.
And he's got good feet, moves really well. Very, very good athlete. He's a plug and play guy at right guard. And right now, if I'm staring at him, and he's probably going to be a guy that you're going to be looking at 48, and he might even be there, or rather, 48, or even the third round pick, the top of the third round. He could be there because, you look at the numbers and you might have 5 or 6 go in the first round. And if 5 or 6 go in the first round, maybe only 4 is going to go in the second round. So, you take these averages, and that's how you kind of figure out where guys are going to go. But I think, there's always a run on tackles before you get the inside guys, unless he really jumps out at you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you got the Boston College kid. And even though I'm not as in love with the Iowa kid as some other people are, he's going to go high. And let me back up a little bit on that too.
Okay.
I don't, just because I'm not madly in love with him doesn't mean he's not going to go high, and he probably will go high. But my way of thinking, I hope they go high, because that drops somebody else to the, where I want to take them.
Yep.
I used to talk to Kuiper a lot when I was working for the Bears, and and we talked to different people trying to find out who was, what information I could find out about, what guys may be available. I could care less of tying a player. This team is taking this play. I just want to know who's going in the top 10, who's going in the top 20, things like that. But he'd say, "Well, what do you think of this guy?" I don't like that much. He's going high. I go, good.
Please.
Good. I hope he goes high.
That's right.
That gives me a better player. That drops a better player to me.
And you this season,
can't tell I'm excited today, can you?
Yeah. Would you drink some coffee this morning or something?
I don't drink coffee. I've never had a cup. I have had some Starbucks. What do you call them?
Some of that pumpkin spice stuff.
No, frappuccinos, caramel frappuccinos.
Yeah, sure.
The iced coffee, but otherwise, I don't like the taste.
Mm-hmm. My cousin just joined us in the chat. Hey, Lucas. Darn, what was I going to say? Well, let's just move on to our next player. Our next player is Logan Bruss from Wisconsin. Talk about.
No, I didn't. I didn't do him. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, then let's talk about Darian Kennard from Kentucky.
Was not all that impressed. I've heard good things about Kennard.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't fall in love with the tape. He's going to play. I don't know if he's going to be a starter. If he does become a starter, he might be a guy that you want to replace. He is a tough guy. He's got great length. He's strong. I think he doesn't finish real well. His movement skills are average. Let me see what I got. Yeah, I said his workout numbers aren't very good. Gonna have trouble with wide speed. He gets overextended too much. Might be better off at guard than playing tackle. Shows some good things, but he's very inconsistent. I said he is Bobby Massey.
Oh, really? Bye.
Yep.
Move on. Just kidding, Bobby. Bobby has had a solid NFL career.
Right. Yeah. He wasn't the hype. He was a mid-late round pick, but he's a big guy who knows his limitations and knows how to play within himself.
Yeah. That's interesting. Kyle Long would always speak glowingly of Bobby Massey and that kind of kinship that develops between offensive linemen, particularly those that are to your immediate left or right or both, is kind of important to have, right? Is that something that's cultivated in locker rooms?
Oh, yeah. Defensive linemen hang out with defensive linemen, offensive linemen hang out with offensive linemen. You got these groups, but the offensive linemen have a brotherhood more so than probably any other position because it's five that act with one. It's a well orchestrated unit. And the brotherhood, for lack of a better word, between the group is amazing. And I remember this goes back to, when I was working for the Bears and Harry was the offensive line coach. And I thought Harry was a very good evaluator. There's some coaches that don't like to, they love coaching, but they don't want to evaluate. They want you to tell them, who to take, which is fine. The key is finding out who can do it and who wants to do it. But anyway, Harry wanted to do it. He was very good at it. But we'd send Harry out. He wouldn't go to the pro days. We'd send him to work out guys out privately, where he got to spend a lot of quality time with them and not have to share them, so to speak, with the other coaches. And then he'd come back and he'd give us a report and he'd go, "No, I don't want him." Why? He's not going to fit in the room. Olin will eat him up. and he'll go on, things like that. And part of that, of his evaluation process was, looking at the player's personality and his communication skills and how he's going to get along with the veterans in the room. And if he didn't see him as a fit in the room, he didn't want him.
Yeah, I was listening to Olin Kreutz's podcast recently. One of the episodes, he details what some of the things that he would do to rookie offensive linemen. I'm like, Olin, geez, that's your teammate.
We had a player development guy who was there for a long time. I can't remember what his name is for the life of me, but so it's his rookie year, first year doing this. And in the weight room, and he comes down and asks Olin, he goes, it was after the draft. And so there's rookie school going on. The rookies can come in on May 15th and they stay through OTAs and minicamp and stuff, but they've got to do, it's a league mandated thing. They've got like a classroom situation every day where there's stuff they got to learn about. And they do these field trips and all sorts of stuff. So he comes over and he goes, we got the rookies in. Can you speak to all these guys? And Ola looks like, are you fucking crazy? And so I'm not talking to a bunch of rookies. When they make the team, I'll think about it.
I love it. I love it. We gotta have Olin on one of these.
But he doesn't. He's not nice about it. He does it in a way this guy, and I wish I could remember his name because he was a good guy. He's like, oh my God, what did I do? You know?
That's hilarious. All right, we move on. The next guy is from Ohio State, and his name is Taylor Mumford Jr. There he is. What do you think about Big Taylor? 6'6", 330 pounds.
Tell you what, let's do the other guy from Ohio State first.
All right, and the other guy.
And I don't know how to say his name. What is it? Petit Frere?
Oh yeah, it is Nick Petit Frere.
Is it Petit Frere? I don't know how to say his name.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought it might have been, is Petit Frere, but then I thought it might be Petit. This is the guy I was referring to that a little while ago, that his recovery from, shifting of his weight, playing on the left side, wasn't as good as on the right side. Now go back to the 2020 season.
Mm-hmm.
This guy played right tackle. So Justin Fields' final year at Ohio State. And the other guy, Munford, was the left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's pretty good right tackle. Got size, he's got length, he's got bend. Now, last year, they moved him to left tackle and moved Munford inside the left guard.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy had his moments at left tackle, but inconsistent. Part was he got tall. His anchoring when he was on the left side, for some reason, wasn't as good as when he was on the right side. Now, athletically, he could play on the left side. He just, for whatever reason, just didn't play or look as comfortable playing left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And there was times when I saw some people, good pass rushers, get into his chest and drive him back.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't anchor real well. And again, so I went back and watched when he was playing with Justin at right tackle, and I'm like, wow, different player.
Mm-hmm.
So I think whoever gets this guy, he's going to be a right tackle, and he might even be able to play guard too. He's athletic enough to play guard, like his length. Good player. I wouldn't touch him before, say, the third round.
Mm-hmm.
He could go higher than that, but I just, I just can't see him being a left tackle in our league. Let me see what other notes I got here.
Well, and while you're looking that up, there is an AFC scout who told NFL.com that if Petit Frere would have stayed in school another year, he would have been a first rounder and made a lot more money.
That very well could be true. And the one thing I didn't like either too was his hand use. But hand use is you can fix that. Mm. But what he does, and I'm going to back up a little bit here so I can use my hands, is that you want guys to be compact with their hands.
Mm-hmm.
So they're coming out and they got their hands in here and they're punching right from here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, he drops his hands and brings them out here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then he's going like this. And a lot of times he gets on the outside where he's grabbing, in here. You're going to get called for holding there.
Oh yeah.
You got to keep your hands in here. If you lock on in here, and at what, why guys wear those real tight jerseys now? So you can't hold them. Yeah. But what the offensive linemen are taught to do is grab right in here in the chest and with their thumbs and the thing, grab just like that. Okay. You're not going to get called in most cases
mm-hmm.
if you're holding in here.
Mm-hmm.
You get your hands out here, you're going to get called every time.
Oh, wow. You think they should allow holding in football? I just say that because holding penalties kill me, man.
No, but you got to have, what's real important, what I look for, again, is it a coaching matter or is it a physical thing? Hand use is, and unless the guy just is lackadaisical about his technique, a lot of times it's coaching. What's he being taught? And we don't know that. Now, if you're making a school call and you're watching practice, you're seeing what he's being taught. But guys who keep their hands inside, those guys have been taught really well. Now, this guy, Petit Frere, he's got the athleticism, but technique is off, and he doesn't always play with bend. And so when he gets tall, he's going to get walked back, and coaches will just, they won't let him on the field then because you're going to get your quarterback beat.
Any other thoughts on where is he? There he is, on Taylor Mumford Jr.?
Well, Mumford, I don't know if he's going to be a fit for what these, just based on what I'm hearing. I don't see the movement skills. He's strong. He's shown he can play left tackle at the college level. I don't think he's a left tackle. He's a guard or a right tackle at the NFL. I just don't see the movement skills. He's kind of laboring, for lack of a better term, if you understand what I mean.
Yes.
He's not real smooth, but he's legitimately strong. Like Petit Frere, I think his hand use needs improvement. Now, in saying that, they hired a line coach. I think last year was his first year there. Justin Fry, who came from UCLA, and before that, he was at Boston College. And this guy was, ranked among the best. But when I'm watching the Ohio State linemen and I see some of the hand use and stuff, I go, either they're just not paying attention to what they're being coached, or the coach isn't really driving it into their heads that this is what they have to do.
All right, let us move on here. Coaching. Yeah, how much when you have a good coaching staff, that adds 2, maybe 3 wins a season, right? I mean,
God, yeah. And in my opinion, I mean, you got to get your coordinators right, your offensive line coach, your defensive line coach,
the teachers,
right? Yeah, you got to get those ones right. Now, and your coordinators, they got to be, this is my opinion now, they got to be X and O guys. Your position coaches got to be teachers, especially your line coaches.
Those are the most important teachers on a team. All right, let us move on. And who we got next here? We have Abraham Lucas, an interesting guy. I've seen some mocks go where he's in the top of the second round, and I've seen mocks that he's not going into the fourth round. What are your thoughts?
He's an interesting guy. He's athletic. He's a little bit raw. He's got good length. He's got a good punch. Let me get my notes here to make sure I'm saying the right stuff.
Sure. 315 pounds, 33 7/8 arms, 10.5-inch hands. He's a big.
Yeah, he's got a 29-inch vertical, a 9.5 broad.
Wow.
I said great athlete for a right tackle. He plays right tackle, not on the left side. Good in pass pro. Has some problems. People, the counter moves. And actually with the problem he had was against Thibodeau from Oregon, and Thibodeau would get into his chest, but I did not see that against any other guy. And that's why Thibodeau might be a top 5 guy. He's very, very powerful. When they do run block, I thought he was a good run blocker. He looked to finish. He got movement. He stayed low with the run block. One thing I look for with offensive linemen, and when they come off the ball, do their feet stop, or do they keep moving right with it? And his feet don't stop. Stop and go, guys. I don't like stop and start guys on the offensive line. I want them to make contact and keep driving. And that's what he does. I think he's going to be a starter. He might not be a starter as a rookie, but he's going to be a starter in the league. But yeah, you're right. I've seen the same thing. I think people are all over on this guy. Some have him high, some have him low, and that's not unusual.
Right.
I mean, one team could have a guy in the second round, another team might not have him till the fourth or fifth, and that's typical in the league.
Mm-hmm. He has a high school background, high school basketball background. So he probably brings that athleticism that Ryan Post says he wants to have in his offensive lineman. Have you, when you were scouting these offensive linemen, was there an offensive lineman that you were like, how could this guy be ranked so high? His athleticism is just not there. Is there like I think you used to do this on your Pro Football Focus, your Pro Football Weekly draft guide. Didn't you have like the negatives? Watch out.
I'd have strong points, weak points,
right,
and then a summation. Yeah, I mean, if I'm doing, but then I'm doing, I'm doing 50 linemen,
right,
and you're going to get guys. I mean, I've seen. There's one guy. A story. This goes back. He had originally committed to Notre Dame. He was a Georgia kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a high 4-star player. So on signing day, he never signs with Notre Dame, even though he was committed to them, and he signed with Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So I happened to be in Georgia that season. So you go down on the field to watch the pregame, and I always watch the linemen. So I said, I'm going to check out this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he's only a freshman. Worst body I ever saw. Looked like the next time he walked in the weight room would be the first time he walked in the weight room. He was tall, real long, real soft, no muscles. So how about this? He never played a frickin' down at Georgia and was off the team in 2 years.
Oh my goodness.
So, I mean, Notre Dame dodged a bullet on this guy, and I can't remember his name. But I just, when I looked at him, I go, what the hell? This guy was a 4-star?
Man.
Give me a break.
Yeah, there are some guys. I mean, when you're looking at guys that are in their shorts, or at the Senior Bowl when they do their weigh-ins, they come out in their underwear and so forth. And when you're looking at an offensive lineman's body, what stands out to you most? What are the things you're looking for when you're looking at a guy's physique?
Offensive line, I'm not really into the physique that much as compared to some other position, unless he's got like man boobs and he's just really soft.
Yeah.
And flabby. But I'm looking for arm length. I'm looking for lower body development.
Mm.
So, has he been in the weight room doing squats?
Mm-hmm.
Or has he got he's got a bowl of Jell-O sitting in his ass, just things like that. But I mean, you can tell when you see these things that, guys who have been working out,
mm-hmm.
who take pride in what their position and take pride in getting better versus guys that are getting by on natural skill but aren't putting in the work.
Mm. I like what Art says here. He says, I like offensive and defensive linemen having wrestling backgrounds, gives them a better chance at winning their one-on-ones. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's leverage. And guys who are wrestlers, and one of the great wrestlers who turned into a pro was Jay Hilgenberg.
Mm-hmm.
He was an all-state wrestler, might even been better than that in the state of Iowa. And Iowa always has really good wrestling programs in high school. But yeah, always for offensive and defensive linemen, you're looking to see if they wrestled in high school. Some even wrestle in college, at least for the first part of college. But it's they're learning how to play with leverage, how to use their hands, and how to win with their hands when they're wrestling. And so that's why it's important.
All right, let's move on to Dylan Parnham out of Memphis, 6'3", 311-pounder.
That's another guy I like.
You're like a lot of guys in this draft crop.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, and he was one of the first guys I looked at.
Mm-hmm.
where's my and he's another guy that just kind of jumped right out at me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I wow, that's because Memphis isn't known for necessarily having great offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
He's six. He's got to be a guard and maybe even a center because he's 6'2 3/4, 313. He's got 25 bench, plays right guard. And I said he's a freaking plow horse. He comes off. He's got a lot of snap in his hips. That's another thing. When you look at making contact, are they making contact and they stay like this, or are they, more on an angle like this, and then their hips? So they make contact and then they snap their hips into the guy, and almost like you're screwing, and they just snap in there and they drive. That's where your power is coming from. And this guy's got natural snap in his hips.
I love it.
And really plays with a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it here?
He ran under 5 seconds on the 40, like 4.93 at the combine. 4-year starter.
Said he's real good in space to hit a moving target. Really good hand use. Keeps his feet moving on contact. There's not at 6'2 3/4, he might not be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, if the Bears drafted this guy, he's a plug and play guy at right guard.
Plug and play, really?
Yeah.
Like first year?
Right away.
Wow.
Day one.
That is great to hear. When, as somebody who has scouted and
no, wait a minute, I got to back up. I don't know what's going on up here with any of these guys. I haven't made a school call, so you watch the tape and you see the physical attributes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is he smart enough to pick up,
right?
The offense and all that? Assuming that, because now, generally speaking, the smartest players on your football team are your offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's been true since I've been watching the game in the 60s.
The least smart, I didn't want to say dumb, might be your defensive lineman. But
as long as they can find the quarterback, I don't care.
I told you what the definition was last week of a defensive lineman.
That's right.
Do you remember? Are you a good student? Do you remember what I said?
You said something about them being an animal or a dog.
No, they're a thug.
Tell our audience that wasn't here last week what that means.
No, they are. They're in 50, 60, 3-second fights a game.
There you go.
And they got to be nasty SOBs.
Yep.
To win. And so you've got their job is they don't necessarily have to think, yes, they got to be instinctive. They got to find the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to, create havoc. Where an offensive lineman, you're working as one. You got to think. You got to be alert. You got to be watching for stunts.
Yeah.
All sorts of things. And it's really the mentality difference between an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And boy, I think back to the days in the 60s when the head slap was allowed by defensive linemen. They would just swat the helmet of some player and he rung his bell.
Yeah, here's some trivia. Who's had the most famous head slap in football?
Wasn't it Deacon Jones?
Very good.
Thank you. So we've talked apart. Hey, somebody asked about Cam Jurgens, the center out of Nebraska. He wasn't on your list, but if you had a chance,
no, I haven't looked at him.
All right,
Nebraska hasn't had good linemen in years, and it used to be they were loaded with them.
Yes, that was the so-called factory for offensive linemen. So let's see who we have left coming up here. I don't think we've talked about Luke Fortner from Kentucky.
I don't think I did Fortner. Let me double check. I did the other guy from Kentucky, Kennard, but I didn't do Fortner.
Okay. This guy.
Let me double check.
Yeah, take a look at him. I'll just say that he's a 6'4", 307-pound center from Kentucky, 33 and an eighth arms, 10-inch hands, Luke Fortner.
I think the last guy I did that we haven't hit is Max Mitchell.
Oh, okay.
From Louisiana.
All right, let me bring up his stats. Why don't you go ahead and start letting us know about Max?
Max numbers, other than his height, weren't all that good when you look at the athletic numbers, but his tape's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And, I said he's a tough right tackle, good strength, gets after people. He's consistent, good run blocker, good pass blocker, better than adequate hand use, needs to finish better. By that, there's times when he's got the block and might be in pass protection, might be in run blocking. It doesn't matter and it's not all the time, it's just sometimes, but you see it. And then he just stops for whatever reason and doesn't fit, go snap to whistle.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's times you see it where that guy actually ends up his opponent ends up making a play. So he's got to get better with that. Jordan Silver said he likes him better than Rainmann. Not a chance. Not a chance. Rainmann is a good football player. This guy's a tough guy, though. There's a lot to like, about his game. It's just the inconsistency, the lack of finish. I think he's a guy that, he comes in, he's a backup, and maybe by year 3 he becomes a starter.
Well, that was another question I was going to ask you. When scouts typically will say in 2 years he could be a starter, 3 years he's a starter, that kind of thing. What goes into that thought process? Is it that he just needs more coaching up, or you need to see his body fill up, all of the above and more? What's the thing?
Art is the grade you put on it says that.
Right.
Okay, so if you put a certain, like in the system we had, if I gave the guy a 64,
mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. I said he's a backup and maybe with a chance down the road to become a starter. Okay, and we had a letter grade first. So if I gave a B64 instead of a C64, that there was a couple grades where you could get like an A or a B or a B or a C.
Mm-hmm.
And if I gave a guy a B64, that means I'm saying he had more upside than a C64. Even though the number grade is the same, the C guy, I'm saying his ceiling is a pretty good backup. And you can get out of a game with him if you have to, but you'd rather him be a backup. But the B64 has upside to eventually become a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if I have a 65 grade on a guy, I'd say, he's going to become, he might not be a starter first year, but he's going to become a starter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you got 66, 67, 60, and on up, you're hoping that unless you're strong at that position, they come in and start.
All right, let's get to some of the questions that we have here. Brett Kimball a little while ago asked about Zion Johnson. Where do you think he goes? Is he a day 2 draft pick, early day 2?
I remember when we did it, I said he's that 20 to 40 guy in my mind. Probably 25 to 35 would be even more accurate. So it wouldn't shock me if he goes the bottom part of the first round. And like Rainmann, if he doesn't go in the first, he's going to jump out like a sore thumb.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at the board all day on Friday, and there's going to be people trying to get him.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you're going to see about if you got a high 2 or a high 4, you're in good shape for trades because people, they got all day to prepare now.
Right.
And they're looking and they go, I want this guy. I want, and so they'll come up and get him. Or they'll try to come up and get him. And there was one year we had, I think, around the 8th pick in the 8th or 9th pick in the 4th round. And we put up 6 names that we liked. And we said, we're going to get a chance at 2 or 3 of these guys, based on how things usually happen, right? Bam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all come off the board right away. The guy we ended up with was Nate Vasher. Pretty good player. Yes. But Nate wasn't, and he ended up probably being the best of all of them, but he wasn't at the top of that list.
Interesting. I love those stories from yesteryear. Abraham Lucas, do you project him as a left tackle in the pros? Asked Ravi.
Athletically, he could play. He's never played it. So if you've never played it, that's harder. Athletically, he can easily do it. Like Tevin Jenkins has played it. Okay. So it's a matter of, the coach could look at him and say, you know what, he's got the traits to play left tackle. He's got the length to play left tackle. He really pass blocks really well. We're going to put him at left tackle. It might take some time because he's never played that. And part of it is getting your feet correct, because you're the opposite of what you've been doing. But it's not a hard thing. If a guy's smart enough, he can do it. Now it's just getting your muscle memory right and getting your footwork right, so that when you're sliding and everything, there's a lot to offensive line play. But again, I look at their ability to redirect. So that's slide in one direction, plant their foot, come back in another direction, and not do it and not labor doing it. Got to do it instantaneously, because a good defensive lineman will do those counter moves where he'll maybe start outside and then he'll swim and he'll come across the guy's face and then come inside. Well, a real good athletic offensive lineman can see that coming and adjust real quickly, shift his weight, and come back to the inside.
Excellent. Boy, I love your analysis of offensive linemen. If those of you listening in on the audio podcast, you should also tune into the video portion of that, because Greg is actually doing some hand
get a little animated.
Yeah, I like that. Alex Sims has asked us a couple of times. He's concerned about Bernhard Rainmann being raw and is already at the age of 25.
How long was 25 when he was a rookie?
Kyle Long. That's right. But
it would have bothered me years ago. It doesn't bother me now, because whether if he's 21, he's 25 or whatever, you got 4 years to prove yourself. It's your rookie contract. And at the end of that 4 years, you're either going to extend the guy or you're going to let him hit free agency. So if you think you can get something out of him in that 4 years, take them. And with offensive linemen, hell, they play later.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. You're seeing, who was the guy that just retired, the left tackle of the Rams, who won the NFL Man of the Year?
40 years old.
40 years old. He was playing still at a high level. He could come back and play again next season.
Their left tackle last year was 40 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Peters.
Yep.
Matthew Fuchisi says, funny, I was thinking stop drafting guards and got to start drafting tackles. Is there a philosophy for that? If you're seeing 2 evenly matched position players, guard and tackle, you're probably going to lean towards the tackle. Maybe not.
There's something to that. A lot of times there's tackles that end up being guards, but how good is the player that's playing guard? Okay, like the kid from Tennessee, Chattanooga, Strange. Okay, now he played strictly guard at Tennessee, Chattanooga, and was damn good. But then you watch the Senior Bowl tape, and all he played was center. and he had never played before, and he was pretty damn good there too.
Wow.
So he's got the versatility to play both.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this: if you see a guard that can step, like we said, I thought Parham from Memphis could plug and play, step in and play right away.
Right.
Well, hell, you're going to take him.
Yeah.
If he's going to start for you, you're going to take him.
Agreed.
So it really depends where you are in the draft, what their versatility is, what their athleticism is. I don't think that there's a stone cold rule. It's their talent. Can they play or can't they play?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I was a big proponent of the Bears to try and get Quentin Nelson with, I think it was the 7th pick of the draft. The Colts ended up drafting him beforehand, but I think
we talked about that. I thought for sure Ballard was going to take Roquan.
Yeah.
and it turned out, no, he took Nelson. In fact, he told me that, well, there's a little problem with his knee. It's not a big thing, but it's there. And I mean, like 5 seconds after I sent him a text, I go, "You're lying, MF."
I love that. Hey, you can't expect it to tell you everything.
No,
the lying season even applies to good friends, right?
Oh, yeah. No, but he loved Roquan too.
Yeah. Well,
but he had his fallback guy, and that's Leonard. Leonard's pretty damn good. And he knew Leonard was going to be there because Leonard didn't run good.
Yeah, I love Leonard too. And I thought he was a steal in the second round. So
if he had run better, he would have, probably gone in the first. But Leonard is a perfect example of this defense not needing big guys at the line. Now, he's tall, but I guarantee as a rookie, he didn't weigh 220 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And he still doesn't play it. He might start off the season at 229, 230, but he doesn't finish it. He's not a big guy. He's a linear guy. But he's got a lot of functional strength. He can run, and he's got great instincts.
Bear with me, asks, who will be the biggest slide in the draft? Have you been hearing anything about it?
No, because generally guys slide. Well, first of all, the draftniks don't have the same ratings as teams do.
Mm-hmm.
But guys slide because of medical or character.
Mm-hmm.
So, and unless somebody leaks the medical, and if the medical gets out and it's leaked out, then a team's doing it hoping to get them later than they need to get them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Back to our questions. Let's see what we got here. Art by Nike. I like offensive we already went that one. That's the wrestling one. Herney says top half of this first is unpredictable this year without the quarterbacks. And how many quarterbacks do you think are going to go in the first round total?
3.
I was hoping.
Because you know what? 1 and maybe 2 are going in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Because they always do.
Exactly.
And you're going to have, there's teams that got to have a quarterback, and they're going to press it. Maybe they trade down to get to get him or whatever. But Carolina's got to have a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans. They gave Jameis a lot of money for one, but what's Jameis done in his career besides nothing? Okay.
30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in one season. That was his big season.
Atlanta's got to get a quarterback. There's teams that Seattle's got to get a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, they're going to say there's so many quarterbacks, and you probably got to overdraft to get one.
Mm-hmm.
Usually do, and you got to be lucky and make sure that the guy you take ends up being the right guy. You couldn't get a guy, and I honestly believe that Mitchell Trubisky is going to be better in Pittsburgh than he ever was here. But the fact of the matter is, Ryan Pace took the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Now, looking in hindsight, good thing he didn't take Deshaun Walker either.
Watson, yeah.
Watson. That would have scared the shit out of all the Mizzou's.
They would have been running for Green Bay, I guess. The next question we have here is from Alex Smith. Does Greg think the Bears have to take a tackle with one of their seconds, or does he think they need to? That's an interesting question. And you sent out a tweet just recently speculating, what those position areas would be for the first 2 or 3 picks. I think
their first 3 picks, not in any particular order, are wide receiver, corner, and an offensive lineman. Now, that could change if they sign another, there's a couple offensive linemen that are still worth a darn out there. There's really, unless you're going to sign Landry at wide receiver and he wants big money and Poles isn't going to do that. There's really not, the receiver I think is going to happen, whether it's 39, 48, or that 3rd round pick, whatever that number is. Who knows it. But I think right now, as things stand right now, given what the roster and things are going to change. And now, I thought they might sign a couple more vets going into this week because they started their off-season program, but they didn't. Now they brought in a guy yesterday, and then he was going out to the Chargers today. So they obviously didn't sign him yet, unless something happened since we started the show.
I haven't seen anything on Twitter come up.
But he, that guy's a return guy. I mean, yeah, you can play. He's a gadget guy. He's 5'8". He's fast, but he can return kicks and punts. As a receiver, I watched tape last night. He's got a very small receiving radius, catches in here a lot, but he's electric on reverses, jets, and as a return guy. So that's why they want him. But they're not going to pay $1 gazillion for him.
Right. Great stuff today, man. This is a show that I've been looking forward to. What excellent observations on the offensive linemen. I know that I'm going to play that bit about Bernhard Rainmann for Danny on his show Thursday night. We'll get his rebuttal, and maybe I'll show you his rebuttal this upcoming week.
Hey, you know what? I appreciate Danny's opinion. I got my opinion. I've said this a gazillion times during my career. You can put 5 scouts in the same room, put on the same tape, tell them to look at the same guy, and you're going to probably get 4 different opinions.
How true is that? And
it's because what you're looking at. But I looked at the tape. There's really nothing I don't like about it, but on top of that, I pick up the phone and I talk to people too, to try to get a feel for what the league thinks. Now, I don't talk to a lot. Like there's a corner when we do corners next week that I'm concerned about. Now I'll tell you who it is. It's the McCreary kid from Auburn.
Jordan.
And my big problem with McCreary is he's got alligator arms. He's got the shortest arms that I have ever seen on a corner. And I tell you right now, there's not a corner playing in the league unless he's 5'7" or something that has arms as short as he does. His arms are 28 7/8 inches long. That's really, and on top, he's 5'11", and now he doesn't do any of the jumps at the combine. He does them at the pro day. 31.5 vertical and a 9'6" broad jump. Those are poor jumps for a corner. So now, who the hell is trying to get a hold of you? You're doing a show, man.
My dog groomer. The dog is ready.
Ready to pick up. Now but now you got a guy with short arms who can't jump. So I texted one guy I talked to, one guy I texted, and the one guy I talked to said, "Yeah, I like his tape." And I go, "You like 29 or 28 and 7/8" arms?" He goes, "I didn't know that." I go, "And you're working in the freaking league and you didn't know that? Come on, man." And he goes, "I don't know if I like him as much now." and right away. And so then, I sent a text to another guy, and his reply is, I says, "Does McCreary's 28 7/8" arm scare you?" So I like his tape, but felt he played like a short arm guy. Then I saw his arm length and jumps, all poor. I don't think there's a corner in the league with arms that short. He sends back, yes, yes, and yes. Saying that he's still a good player, but he won't be more than a nickel. Meaning he won't play outside. He's gonna have a problem with tall guys. So if he's playing against the average slot receiver, he'll be fine. But what good offensive coordinators do is they look for mismatches. And so now you put, okay, I got a short arm corner playing and who can't jump playing in the slot. So I'm going to put my 6'4" receiver in the slot in this game and make them cover him.
A lot of talk in the chat regarding Kindle Vildor. You still have hopes that he can play at the NFL level consistently?
Yeah, because I like his traits, and I liked his tape a lot in college. Again, the one thing I don't know is what goes on upstairs without being either in the building or making a school call. I just the defensive backs as a whole, I wasn't impressed with the way they've played the last couple of years. So is that the player or is that the coaching they were getting?
Who was basically Sean Desai.
Well, Sean Desai had the safeties.
Okay.
The year before, and then he became the coordinator. But Kendall played pretty good on teams. I want to see what he does with this staff. This team's got to get some corners now. I mean, shit, they don't have any.
Yeah, that's
you got names, but they're all question except for Johnson. They're all question marks.
Yep.
And I know for a fact that at Indy, their profile was 5'10" and a half or taller. Now you take a vet who's shorter than that because he's proved he can play in the league, but you're not going to draft a guy that's shorter than that. Okay, so McCreary's 5'11", so he passes the 5'10" and a half test. Now now that was that was Ballard's thing, but part of that was in conjunction with the coaches, and Eberflus was the defensive coordinator, and all his defensive back coaches are here too. So I got to say that 5'10" and a half is their cutoff. So that tells me some of these guys that were here last year, especially the little slot corner from Kansas State, he isn't tall enough. Now there is one vet that's out there that plays nickel that I'd consider signing, and that's Taven Young, he was the Ravens.
Yeah. Okay.
Nickel. He's 5'9 3/4. He's got long arms. So I looked up his arm length, and long arms can sometimes, overcome short height.
Sure.
But he's still on the street. So, which means they're still on the street now. They're not getting more unless there's something special. They're not getting more than a 1-year contract. Like Tyrann Mathieu. he's going to get a multi-year deal. But a lot of guys on the street right now you're looking at 1-year deal guys.
Yeah, which is right up Ryan Poles'
There's nothing wrong with that. Prove it. I mean, and sometimes the guys like that, they'll bet on themselves.
Mm-hmm. Although they would prefer a long-term contract first and foremost, but yeah, if they're of that age and they've got a lot of confidence, I just feel like we're going to have to go through this again next year because the team already now has so many 1-year contracts. This rebuilding looks like a 2 or 3 year affair to me.
Well, to me, this is a show me year. This is the between the coaches and the front office is I want to see who I like, who I don't like, what they can do. And then next year, all that dead money is getting cleared off the books. And then they're going to make their moves.
Excellent.
Now, does that mean tank or something this year? Oh, I don't think that.
No, I don't.
But I think you're going to see a lot different team in 2023 than we're going to see this year.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we're going to cover cornerbacks next week. You want to do it Monday, Mr.
I don't know yet. I know I got to go downtown on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Let me figure out what the schedule is. These guys, I've done like 3 or 4. And as I told you in the text last night, corners and safeties take me a long time because you got to watch a bunch of tape.
Yeah.
Like that story I sent you though about the second round there, or the third round from 2010.
Yeah, why don't you share that story with everybody?
Well, no, I mean, we ended up taking what the hell was his name?
Geez, you said it in the story. Let me see if I can find it.
From Florida.
Nate Allen went to in the second.
Nate Allen. We had Nate Allen and then the kid Morgan from Georgia Tech.
Right. And
those were the first 2 guys, safeties we wanted.
Right.
And we didn't have a first and second round pick. We weren't picking till the third because of the Cutler trade still. And so then, we had them grouped and we ended up getting the third guy. It was a good player. But, the guy we wanted first went the highest. He went the second round.
And so you ended up with Major Wright in the third round.
And Major was a bitch to study, which I told you in the text. I have never had to watch 16 game tapes on a player in my life. But there was, from his last year at Florida, when I say nobody threw over the middle, no one threw. I mean, they threw outside the numbers. The safeties weren't in on anything. I mean, you watch a whole season, like, I didn't see any plays. And it's not that the guy couldn't make any plays. There wasn't plays for him to make.
There you go.
So, and it's just how offenses attack. They had 2 pretty good safeties there. The other safety was Hill, who played in the league a long time. And so people attack the corners. Now, the year before, you saw some plays. Like I said, I had a good feel for him. And I don't know if I ever had a great feel. There's some guys, you can watch 2.5 games and you go, I know this guy, and that guy, I had to watch tape after tape after tape. But, Jerry'd come in my office. You got them done yet? No. I said, Jerry, there's no plays. I gotta keep watching.
It's a lot of tape to go through, man.
Because the last thing I want to do is guess.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And the tape don't lie.
Well, see, I'm going to contend that, and I don't mean this as a criticism of the guys over at the Tape Never Lies and all these other shows that have a similar title. The tape doesn't lie, but it doesn't take into account if the guy isn't feeling well, if the guy's sister died a few days ago, if there's all these things that happen in between the ears that can affect.
But that's why you make school calls, Aldo.
Yeah, well, but that's different than the tape, right?
Well, yeah, but you know, if Joe Schmo hurt his knee in game 2,
right,
and it bothered him for the next 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you do? Don't watch game 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm.
He's not at 100%. Maybe watch one of them and watch him last to see the difference in play between when he was feeling up here versus down here.
Mm.
But that's why you make school calls and you ask questions to find out, did he miss practice time? Why? But another thing you want to look at is matchups. So when, who's he playing? When is he playing the best guys? A corner I did, Elam from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first tape I put on was Alabama because Alabama's got good receivers.
Yeah. Right.
So what do you do against Alabama? You want to see him play against the best players.
Yep. As we end this episode of Gabriel Talks Football, I want to acknowledge that you put up on Twitter yesterday about your brother Ted, and Adeptus actually reminded me. He says, Greg, my condolences for your brother Ted. He shares a birthday with my new daughter who was born yesterday morning. So you lost your brother a few years ago, and you made
11 years ago.
11, wow.
But I got a funny story. And I mean, and it's the last time I saw him alive because he was in Buffalo and I was here. So I traveled to Buffalo to see him. I knew he was in sad shape. He didn't have one cancer. He had about 4 cancers.
Oh, gosh.
But, he was a smoker. He was a drinker. Just, he didn't take care of himself.
Yeah.
So he was 64 years old when he died. So April 4th was his birthday. Just turned 64. And I think I was there like the day after his birthday or something. And, he doesn't look good. And we're talking and he just looks at me and he goes, I don't want to wake up dead. And I just started laughing. He goes, what are you laughing at? I said, that might have been the funniest thing you ever said in your whole life. And then he thought about it. He goes, oh, yeah.
Oh, I would love to wake up dead. When it happens, that's the way I want to go.
Well, I mean, just think about it. That it's an hilarious statement. But I'll never forget it. In fact, I was having dinner with my wife last night, and we were talking about we had a glass of wine and toasted my brother, and I just said, don't want to wake up dead. And then and we both laughed, but it was funny. And he was gone. Like, in fact, he died 2011, Monday of draft week.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the wake was Thursday, the night of the first round. So I missed part of the first round. And then the wake was over and we went across the street to this bar and me and my wife and some friends, we watched the rest of the first round. That's when the Bears took that Wisconsin tackle. So I wasn't there then. That was my first draft, not there.
Gabe Carini, was it?
Yeah, Gabe Carini. And then the next morning was his funeral. We flew back here late Friday afternoon. And then, I watched the second day of the draft here.
Wow. Gabe Carini was such a major disappointment because I wanted him. I said, man, I saw so many Wisconsin games that year, and he suffered an early season injury. And
he had a knee injury.
Yeah, when he came back, it was like, this is a totally different player than I saw Wisconsin.
And I wasn't there then, so I don't know how severe the injury was. But there's a lot of controversy about that pick. Baltimore thought they had a trade with the Bears.
Oh, that's right.
To move up to get that pick, and that's who they were taking.
Oh, wow. They should be thankful now, not complaining like they have been for years about that.
I'll tell you, Ozzie and Jerry were very close, and Ozzie was pissed for about 2 years over that.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Well, maybe we'll have Jerry Angelo on someday, and he can refresh our memory on how that broke down. Would you ask him that to share that story publicly, or is that something we shouldn't?
I don't know if he'd do that. We had him on once. What was that? A year and a half ago, right?
It was when you and Schuster did the show together.
Yeah.
Great interview. Yeah, absolutely. Look for that one in your archives, Barflies. And I want to just say that tonight, that's the Dan and Aldo Bear Their Soul show, which is a lot of people thought they were tuning in to watch that, but I got my links confused. And so I got to go in now and fix the mess that I made and pick up my dog. So Greg and I will be back next week. We'll be talking cornerbacks. And by the way, Greg, do you still have like one of your templates for that you would use for your scouting reports? Because I'd love to share that with the audience and look at, a sample.
I did. I don't know if I still do.
Okay. I'll try to find
I had stuff in put it this way. I didn't have blank ones. I had some reports and they were on, it was a 2-sided sheet, and there were some reports I had in a resume thing. I don't even know if I still got that around. A lot of that stuff, I got rid of. So, because my wife calls me a hoarder, so you got to get rid of that.
Can't tell that by looking at your office. It's everything looks perfectly good.
I'll go down in the basement. So, boxes upon boxes of stuff.
You and I have that same issue. Lots of great compliments coming your way, and this is probably one of my favorites. Greg is such a jewel and treasure for Bear fans to listen to. That's from your buddy Jordan Silveria, who you guys have disagreed on a couple of picks via social media, but he loves the interaction with you.
That's fine.
All right, everybody. Again, Greg and I will be back next week to talk cornerbacks. I will be here with Dan Aguirre later tonight, and that's our show for this week. Take care, everybody.
See you later.
Bye-bye.